You think too much. You replay every option, every mistake, every possible future. And the more you think, the more confused you become. You are not broken. Your mind is simply tired of carrying fear. What if the problem is not your intelligence, but the way you try to feel safe? In this audiobook summary, you will learn how to make decisions with calm, clarity, and trust. This is the Overthinker's Guide to Making Decisions, How to Make Decisions Without Losing Your Mind, by Joseph Nguyen. Welcome to Bookverse. This is the place where we break down the best self-help books. We take big ideas and turn them into clear lessons. Lessons you can use in your daily life. If you want to grow, if you want to change, if you want a better life, then you are in the right place. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us till the end. Now let's begin. We are going to cover this book chapter by chapter. Chapter 1. The Silent Prison of Overthinking. Overthinking is quiet. It does not scream. It whispers. It sounds like logic. It feels like responsibility. It pretends to be intelligence. And that is why it is so dangerous. Most people think overthinking comes from weakness. That is not true. Overthinking often comes from strength. It comes from people who care deeply, people who think ahead, people who want to do the right thing. Smart people, people like you. You analyze because you do not want to fail. You replay conversations because you do not want to hurt anyone. You imagine every outcome because you want to be prepared. You are not careless. You are careful. But somewhere along the way, carefulness turns into a cage. And you do not even notice when the door closes. At first, it feels productive. You think more. You plan more. You research more. You tell yourself, if I just think a little longer, I will feel sure. But the certainty never comes. The more you think, the heavier your mind feels. The more choices you explore, the more confused you become. Your thoughts begin to circle. And again. And again. You are not moving forward. You are spinning. This is the silent prison of overthinking. No bars. No guards. No alarms. Just your own mind, working against you. And the hardest part is this. From the outside, you look calm. You look capable. You look intelligent. People come to you for advice. They trust your judgment. But inside, your mind is tired. Very tired. You wake up thinking. You fall asleep thinking. Sometimes, you even dream about decisions you have not made. Your brain never rests. You ask yourself questions like, what if I choose wrong? What if I regret this later? What if this one decision ruins everything? And the questions never end. Smart people suffer the most because their minds are powerful. A powerful mind can imagine thousands of futures, most of them frightening. And your brain believes every imagined future is real. So it tries to protect you. Wait a little longer. Think a little more. Let's be absolutely sure. But absolute certainty does not exist. And waiting for it is a trap. Here is a painful truth. Thinking more does not mean deciding better. In fact, after a certain point, thinking more makes decisions worse. Because clarity does not come from endless analysis. Clarity comes from calm. And overthinking destroys calm. When your nervous system is overwhelmed, your intelligence cannot function properly. Your brain goes into survival mode. In survival mode, everything feels urgent. Everything feels risky. Everything feels heavy. That is why small decisions feel enormous. A message takes an hour to send. A simple choice feels life-changing. A single step feels dangerous. You tell yourself, This decision matters so much. But deep down, what really hurts is the fear of regret. You are not afraid of choosing. You are afraid of choosing wrong. You are afraid of looking back one day and saying, I should have known better. So you freeze. And freezing feels safer than moving. But freezing has a cost. A cost no one talks about. Every decision you delay quietly drains your confidence. Every choice you avoid teaches your mind to doubt itself. Over time, you stop trusting your own judgment. You start asking others what to do. You search for answers everywhere. Books, videos, opinions, anyone but yourself. And the more voices you hear, the louder the confusion becomes. Overthinking convinces you that you are being careful. But what it is really doing is stealing your sense of inner authority. You forget that you are allowed to choose. You forget that you are allowed to learn. You forget that you are allowed to be human. You believe that one perfect decision will save you. But life does not work that way. There is no perfect path. There is only a path you walk, and adjust as you go. Smart people often miss this truth because their minds want guarantees. But growth has no guarantees. Only movement. Overthinking creates the illusion of control. It tells you, if I think long enough, nothing bad will happen. But bad things happen anyway. And good things often happen only after you move, not before. Here is something you may not realize. Most of the pain you feel does not come from wrong decisions. It comes from unmade decisions, from waiting, from hesitating, from standing still. Your mind is exhausted, not because life is hard, but because you keep carrying every possible future at once. You were not designed to live like this. Your mind was not designed to hold infinite outcomes. It was designed to respond to the present moment. But overthinking pulls you into a future that does not exist yet. And fear lives there. Fear thrives in imagined futures. Clarity lives in the present. That is why calm people make better decisions. Not because they are smarter, but because their nervous system is settled. They are not fighting themselves. They are not trying to outthink life. They trust their ability to respond. You can learn this too. But first, you must understand one important thing. Your mind is not your enemy. It is just trying to protect you. Overthinking is not a flaw. It is a survival strategy. At some point in your life, thinking more helped you feel safe. It helped you avoid mistakes. It helped you stay in control. But what once protected you is now imprisoning you. And protection that limits your life is no longer protection. It is fear wearing a mask. The silent prison of overthinking does not collapse overnight. It opens slowly, with awareness, with compassion, with trust. You do not break free by forcing decisions. You break free by changing your relationship with your thoughts, by learning when to listen and when to let go. By understanding that thinking is a tool, not a home. You were never meant to live inside your head. You were meant to live your life. In the next chapters, you will learn how to step out of this prison. Gently, calmly, without pressure. You will learn why your mind behaves this way, how to tell fear apart from intuition, and how to make decisions without losing yourself in thought. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are simply waking up to a new way of choosing, and that changes everything. Chapter 2. Why your mind is not designed to decide. Your mind is powerful, but it was never meant to give you peace. This may sound surprising, but it is the truth. The job of your brain is not happiness. It is not calm. It is not clarity. The job of your brain is survival. From the moment you wake up, your brain is scanning for danger, for risk, for uncertainty. It asks one question again and again. Am I safe? This system kept humans alive for thousands of years. It helped our ancestors survive threats, predators, hunger, cold, plus. But here is the problem. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a real danger and an imagined one. A wild animal and a difficult decision trigger the same response. Your heart speeds up, your muscles tense, your thoughts race. The body prepares to fight or freeze. This is not a flaw. This is biology. And this is why your mind struggles with decisions. Because decisions feel like threats. Every decision carries uncertainty. Every uncertainty feels unsafe. So your brain reacts. Does not ask, what is the best choice? Thus, how do I avoid pain? And pain, to the brain, means emotional discomfort, regret, embarrassment, failure, rejection. Your brain wants to avoid these at all costs. So it creates fear. Fear is not weakness. Fear is a signal. But when fear controls your decisions, clarity disappears. Fear is loud. Clarity is quiet. Fear shouts. Clarity whispers. Fear demands action now. Clarity invites patience. But when your nervous system is activated, you cannot hear whispers. Only noise. That is why logic breaks under pressure. You may believe you are a logical thinker. And you probably are. But logic needs calm to function. When stress rises, the logical part of the brain loses control. The emotional brain takes over. This is not opinion. This is how the brain works. Under pressure, your mind narrows. Options disappear. Nuance fades. Everything becomes black or white, right or wrong, success or failure, safe or dangerous. This is not intelligence. This is survival mode. And survival mode is terrible at making life decisions. Because life decisions are complex. They require flexibility. Perspective. Survival mode cannot handle complexity. It wants certainty. So it overthinks. It replays scenarios. It imagines worst-case outcomes. It searches for guarantees. But guarantees do not exist. And when your brain cannot find them, it panics. This panic feels like urgency. It feels like pressure, like heaviness, like something bad will happen if you do not decide perfectly. So you try to think harder. But thinking harder under fear is like pressing the gas. While the brakes are on, you burn energy. You go nowhere. That is why you feel exhausted. After making no decision at all, your mind was fighting itself. One part wants safety. Another part wants movement. And you are caught in the middle. This inner conflict is painful. You may tell yourself, I should be able to figure this out. But the problem is not your ability. The problem is the environment inside your mind. The stressed mind cannot produce clarity, just like muddy water cannot reflect clearly. The harder you stir it, the cloudier it becomes. Clarity comes when the water settles, not when you force it. This is where many smart people get stuck. They believe the answer lies in more analysis, more pros and cons, more research, more opinions. But information does not calm fear. Safety does. And safety comes from regulation, not reasoning. Your brain must feel safe before it can think clearly. Otherwise, logic is hijacked. This is why decisions feel impossible when you are tired, anxious, or overwhelmed. Not because the decision is wrong, but because your system is overloaded. Fear and clarity cannot coexist. Fear demands control. Clarity allows flow. Fear focuses on outcomes. Clarity focuses on alignment. Fear asks, what if this goes wrong? Clarity asks, what feels right now? Fear lives in the future. Clarity lives in the present. When you are overthinking, you are not present. You are living in imagined futures. And imagined futures are always scarier than reality. Your brain fills the gaps with worst-case scenarios. It assumes danger where there is none, because uncertainty feels unsafe. But uncertainty is not danger. It is simply the unknown. And the unknown is where life happens. When you try to eliminate uncertainty, you eliminate growth. That is why your mind resists decisions. Not because it hates you, but because it does not trust uncertainty. And it was never trained to. Your brain was trained to survive, not to trust. Trust is a skill, and it must be learned. Here is another hard truth. Your mind is not designed to make meaning-based decisions. It is designed to react. Meaning-based decisions ask questions like, who do I want to become? What aligns with my values? What feels peaceful long-term? These questions require presence. Fear-based decisions ask, how do I avoid pain? How do I stay safe? How do I escape discomfort? Overthinking happens when fear-based questions dominate. And fear-based questions never lead to peace. They only lead to temporary relief. You choose what feels safest now, not what feels right overall. And later, you wonder why the decision feels empty. This is why many people regret choices that looked logical at the time. Logic without clarity leads to hollow outcomes, because logic alone does not know your soul. Your mind is brilliant, but it is not wise. Wisdom comes from integration. Body, emotion. When one dominates, balance is lost. Overthinking is mental dominance, and dominance creates tension. The body tightens, the breath shortens, the heart races. These are signs, not signs that you should think more, signs that you should slow down. Your body often knows, before your mind does, but fear drowns out that signal. You ignore the tight chest, the uneasy stomach, the shallow breath, and you keep analyzing. But the body never lies. Clarity feels open. Fear feels contracted. Clarity expands. Fear compresses. This is not mystical. This is physiological. Your nervous system speaks in sensations. And when you learn to listen, decisions become easier. Not because life gets simpler, but because you stop fighting yourself. The mind was never meant to carry the full weight of decision-making alone. It was meant to serve, not to rule. When you give it full control, it overwhelms you. When you guide it gently, it supports you. This shift changes everything. You stop asking your mind to predict the future and start asking it to help you respond. Response is different from reaction. Reaction is fear-driven. Response is clarity-driven. Reaction rushes. Response waits. Reaction demands certainty. Response accepts uncertainty. This is the difference between survival and living. You are not failing because decisions feel hard. You are human, and your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. The mistake is expecting it to give you peace. Peace is not a thought. It is a state, and states come from regulation. In the next chapters, you will learn how to create that state, how to calm the nervous system, how to hear clarity again, how to decide without pressure. You will stop forcing answers from a fearful mind and start allowing answers from a calm one, because clarity is not found. It is revealed when fear steps aside, and that is when decisions stop feeling like battles and start feeling like alignment. Chapter 3. The illusion of the right decision. There is a belief quietly controlling your life, a belief so subtle you may not even notice it, the belief that somewhere there exists a perfect decision, a choice with no downside, no regret, no pain, a decision that guarantees happiness. So you search for it. You analyze every option. You imagine every outcome. You wait for a feeling of certainty that never arrives. And while you wait, life keeps moving. This belief is comforting at first. It tells you, if I wait long enough, I will know. But slowly, this belief turns into a cage, because the perfect decision does not exist. Not in relationships, not in careers, not in life. Every choice carries loss. When you choose one path, you close another. This is not failure. This is reality. But overthinking refuses to accept this. It wants guarantees. It wants safety. It wants control. So it keeps you searching for more information, more reassurance, more signs. You tell yourself, I'm just being responsible. But deep down, what you are really doing is avoiding discomfort. Waiting for certainty feels safer than choosing without it. But waiting has a cost, a hidden cost. Every time you delay a decision, waiting for the right feeling, you reinforce fear. You teach your mind that it cannot move without certainty, and the mind learns quickly. Even small decisions feel heavy. What to say, what to start, what to change. Everything becomes a risk. This is self-sabotage, disguised as caution. Certainty is not a requirement for good decisions. It is a myth. Most meaningful choices are made in uncertainty. Growth, purpose. None of these come with guarantees. If certainty were required, no one would ever change. No one would ever begin. Think about it. The biggest moments in your life were not chosen with certainty. They were chosen with hope, with intuition, with courage. Certainty often comes after the decision, not before. But overthinking reverses this order. It demands certainty first. And since certainty never comes, you stay stuck. This is how the illusion works. It tells you freedom is ahead, just one more thought away. But freedom does not come from thinking more. It comes from choosing. Despite uncertainty, the illusion of the right decision keeps you trapped in your mind, because it shifts your focus from movement to perfection. And perfection is paralyzing. Perfection asks, what if this is wrong? Freedom asks, what can I learn from this? Perfection fears mistakes. Freedom understands growth. Perfection looks for outcomes. Freedom focuses on alignment. When you chase the right decision, you place unbearable pressure on a single choice. You tell yourself, this decision will define my future. But no single decision defines your life. Life is shaped by direction, not single moments, by patterns, by adjustments, by learning. But overthinking collapses time. It takes the weight of an entire future and places it on one moment. No wonder you feel overwhelmed. You were never meant to carry that much weight. Here is something important to understand. Most decisions are reversible, And the ones that are not still do not need to be perfect. They need to be honest. Honest to who you are now. Not who you hope to be someday. Not who others expect you to be. Just you. Waiting for certainty often means waiting to feel different. Smarter. Braver. More confident. But confidence is not a prerequisite. It is a result. You do not become confident and then act. You act, and confidence follows. This is where freedom begins. Freedom begins when you stop demanding certainty from life, when you accept that discomfort is part of choosing, when you realize that clarity grows through movement, not through thought. Every decision is a conversation with life. You speak. Life responds. You adjust. This is how alignment is built. Not through perfection. Through presence. Overthinkers often believe they must eliminate regret. But regret is not the enemy. Avoiding life is. Regret teaches. Stagnation suffocates. A wrong decision can still move you forward. No decision keeps you stuck. And being stuck slowly erodes your sense of self. You begin to doubt your instincts. You question your desires. You wait for permission. But permission never comes. Freedom begins when you give it to yourself. When you say, I do not need to be certain to choose. I trust myself to respond. This trust changes everything. It shifts your focus from outcome to integrity, from fear to presence, from control to flow. The illusion of the right decision breaks when you realize this. There is no right choice. There is only the next honest step. And honesty does not shout. It feels quiet, simple, grounded. Fear feels urgent, heavy, pressuring. Learning to tell the difference is a skill, and you will learn it. But first, you must release the fantasy that one perfect choice will save you. Nothing needs saving. You are not broken. You are learning how to trust, and trust grows when you allow yourself to choose. Not perfectly, but sincerely. Freedom does not arrive when fear disappears. Fear may always exist. Freedom arrives when fear no longer decides for you. When you stop waiting for certainty. When you stop postponing life. This is the moment everything begins to shift. Not because life becomes easier, but because you stop fighting uncertainty. You stop demanding guarantees. And in that surrender, something beautiful happens. Your mind softens. Your body relaxes. Your breath deepens. Clarity has space to enter. Not as an answer, but as a direction. And direction is enough. You do not need to see the whole path. You only need the next step. That is where freedom begins. Chapter 4. Overthinking is not weakness. There is something important you need to hear. Overthinking is not weakness. Say that again. Slowly. Overthinking is not weakness. For a long time, you may have believed something else. You may have believed that if you think too much, something must be wrong with you. That you are too sensitive, too anxious, too complicated. But that story is false. And it has been hurting you. Overthinking does not come from a broken mind. It comes from a caring one. It comes from people who feel deeply. People who notice details. People who want to do things right. People who do not move carelessly through life. Ask yourself something. Do careless people overthink? They ignore consequences. They do not reflect. Overthinking belongs to people who care. You think ahead because you do not want to hurt others. You replay situations because you want to understand. You analyze choices because you want to avoid mistakes. This is not weakness. This is responsibility. But somewhere along the way, this strength was turned against you. Instead of seeing yourself as thoughtful, you began seeing yourself as flawed. Instead of trusting your depth, you began judging it. And that judgment created shame. Shame is heavy. To whispers, why can't I just be normal? Why is everything so hard for me? Why can't I decide like others do? Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how often you apologize for thinking too much, for asking questions, for needing time? Why do you apologize? For caring? Why do you treat sensitivity like a defect? Sensitivity is awareness. Awareness is power, but power without guidance can overwhelm. That is what is happening. You are not broken. You are untrained. No one taught you how to hold your depth without drowning in it. No one taught you how to care without carrying everything. So you assumed the problem was you. It was never you. It was the lack of understanding. Overthinking is a response to responsibility, to pressure, to wanting to get things right. Often, it begins early. You learn that mistakes had consequences. You learn that being wrong was unsafe. You learn that approval came from doing things well. So your mind adapted. It learned to scan, to prepare, to prevent. That adaptation kept you safe. But now, it is exhausting you. And instead of honoring that adaptation, you are fighting it, fighting yourself. That fight is what hurts. Imagine this. What if your overthinking is not a problem to eliminate, but a signal to understand? What if your mind is not malfunctioning, but overworking? Would you call a heart weak for beating too fast under stress? You would calm the body. You would slow the breath. You would support the system. Your mind deserves the same compassion. You do not need fixing. You need gentleness. Ask yourself this. When was the last time you spoke kindly to your own mind? When was the last time you said, I know you are trying to protect me? Most people treat their minds like enemies. They say, stop thinking. Calm down. Why are you like this? But resistance creates tension, and tension creates more noise. What you resist persists. Overthinking grows stronger when you shame it, but it softens when you understand it. Here is a shift that changes everything. Overthinking is not the absence of strength. It is unmanaged strength. It is depth without direction. It is awareness without grounding. Once you see this, your identity begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is broken. You start seeing yourself as someone who is powerful, but overwhelmed. That changes the conversation. Instead of asking, what is wrong with me? You begin asking, how can I support myself better? That question opens doors. You care deeply. That is not a flaw. That is the reason you feel so much. That is the reason you notice what others miss. That is the reason you want meaning, not just comfort, but caring deeply. In a world that rewards speed is hard, so you internalize the message that you are too much, too slow, too emotional, too thoughtful. But let me ask you something. What if the world is too fast? What if depth is not the problem? What if the problem is trying to compress depth into urgency? You were never meant to rush clarity. You were meant to grow into it. Overthinking is often misdirected care. You care about outcomes, about people, about your future, but you place that care entirely in your mind, and the mind cannot carry it alone. Care must be grounded, otherwise, it turns into anxiety. Your sensitivity is not fragile. It is perceptive, but perception without rest becomes overload. This is why identity matters. If you believe you are broken, you will try to suppress yourself. If you believe you are weak, you will push harder. But if you believe you are caring and capable, you will learn to regulate. You will learn to pace. You will learn to trust. Ask yourself now, do you feel exhausted from being yourself? If yes, it is not because you are too much. It is because you have been carrying too much alone. You were never taught how to set mental boundaries, how to stop looping thoughts without force, how to rest without guilt. So you blamed yourself. That blame ends here. You are not broken. Say that quietly. You are not broken. You are someone with a deep internal world. And deep worlds require different tools, not suppression, support. Overthinking becomes harmful only when it is misunderstood. When you think your thoughts define you, they do not. Thoughts are events. They pass. You are the space they move through. When you stop identifying with every thought, space opens. And in that space, choice returns. Here is a question for you. What would change if you stopped seeing your mind as a problem? What if you saw it as a sensitive instrument? Would you hit a sensitive instrument to make it quiet? Or would you tune it? Overthinking does not need punishment. It needs regulation. It needs trust. And trust begins with identity. You are not someone who thinks too much. You are someone who feels deeply. You are someone who cares about alignment. You are someone who wants to live honestly. That is power. But power without grounding feels like chaos. So the work ahead is not to become someone else. It is to become more yourself, with support, with awareness, with calm. Ask yourself another question. What if your sensitivity is the very thing that will guide you? What if, instead of silencing it, you learn to listen without fear? That is where clarity lives. Not in force, in acceptance. The moment you stop fighting your nature, your nervous system relaxes. The moment it relaxes, thinking slows. The moment thinking slows, clarity appears. Not because you tried harder, but because you allowed yourself to be human. This is the foundation. Before techniques, before frameworks, before methods, identity must shift first. Because you cannot build trust on self-rejection. You cannot calm a mind you are ashamed of, but you can calm a mind you respect. And you deserve respect. Your care is power. Your awareness is power. Your depth is power. It just needs guidance. And you are learning. Slowly, gently, honestly. This is not the end of overthinking. It is the end of believing. It defines you. And that changes everything. Chapter 5. The real cost of indecision. There is a cost no one warns you about. Not the cost of choosing wrong, but the cost of not choosing at all. Indecision feels harmless at first. You tell yourself, I'm just waiting. I need more time. I'll decide later. It sounds reasonable. It sounds safe. But time does not pause. While you wait, life keeps moving. And every moment you delay, something quiet is happening inside you. You are paying a price that is invisible, but very real. The first thing you lose is time. Not dramatic time, not obvious time, but small moments, days spent thinking instead of living, weeks spent preparing instead of starting, months spent imagining instead of experiencing. Ask yourself this: how many hours have you spent replaying the same decision? How many nights have you gone to sleep without moving forward at all? That time does not come back. And the longer you stay stuck, the harder it becomes to move. Indecision does not stay neutral. It grows. It spreads. What begins as hesitation turns into habit. Your mind learns that waiting is normal. And soon, even simple choices feel heavy. This is the second cost. Lost confidence. Confidence is not built by thinking. It is built by acting. Every decision you make, even imperfect ones, teaches your mind one thing: I can handle this. Every decision you avoid teaches the opposite: I cannot trust myself. Slowly, without realizing it, you begin to doubt your own judgment. You hesitate more. You ask others more. You second-guess everything. Not because you became weaker, but because you stopped proving to yourself that you could choose. Confidence is like a muscle. Use it, and it grows. Avoid it, and it weakens. Indecision weakens you quietly. It does not announce itself. It just slowly erodes your sense of inner authority. Ask yourself honestly: do you trust yourself as much as you used to? Or do you feel unsure, even when you know what you want? This is the emotional weight of not choosing. It is heavy, heavier than choosing wrong, because at least wrong choices move you. Indecision keeps you frozen, and frozen places become uncomfortable over time. You carry the weight everywhere, in your chest, in your thoughts, in your energy. Unmade decisions do not disappear. They linger. They follow you into quiet moments. They surface when you are alone. They whisper, "You still haven't chosen." And that whisper drains you. You feel tired without doing anything, because mental load is still load. Your mind keeps open loops. Open loops demand energy. Every unresolved choice keeps your nervous system alert, always waiting, always preparing, never resting. This is why indecision feels exhausting. Not dramatic exhaustion, but deep exhaustion. The kind sleep does not fix, because it is not physical. It is emotional. Another cost is identity. Over time, you stop seeing yourself as someone who moves forward. You begin seeing yourself as someone who is stuck. And identity shapes behavior. If you believe you are bad at decisions, you avoid deciding. If you believe you are confused, you act confused. But these labels were not born from truth. They were born from repetition. Repeated indecision creates a false story. A story that says, I can't trust myself. But that story can be rewritten. First, you must see the cost clearly, because comfort is deceptive. Indecision feels comfortable. In the moment, no risk, no responsibility, no exposure. But comfort today becomes regret tomorrow. Ask yourself this: what are you avoiding right now? What decision have you been carrying for weeks or months? Is the weight getting lighter or heavier? Most people do not fear failure. They fear responsibility. Responsibility means owning the outcome. Indecision delays ownership. But life does not pause for avoidance. The cost continues to grow. Lost opportunities, lost momentum, lost belief in self. And the most painful loss of all, self-respect. When you know what you need to do, but do not do it, something inside you tightens. You feel disconnected from yourself. You begin to question your integrity, not because you are dishonest, but because you are not aligned. Alignment requires action, even small action. Without it, you feel fragmented, pulled in different directions. This is why indecision hurts more than making a wrong choice. A wrong choice still aligns you with movement. Indecision keeps you divided. One part wants change, another part wants safety, and the tension between them creates stress. Stress you carry silently. This is the wake-up moment. Not harsh, not aggressive, honest. Indecision is not harmless. It is not neutral. It is costing you time, confidence, energy, and peace. But here is the empowering truth. The cost stops the moment you choose. Not when you choose perfectly. When you choose honestly. You do not need certainty to move. You need courage. And courage is not loud. It is quiet. I will take responsibility for my next step. That is all. Not the whole future. Just the next step. Ask yourself now. What is one decision you have been delaying because you want to feel ready? What if readiness comes after action? What if clarity is waiting on the other side of movement? Indecision keeps you waiting for permission, but no one is coming. You must give it to yourself. This is not about rushing. It is about respecting your life. Your time matters. Your energy matters. Your inner voice matters. The longer you ignore it, the quieter it becomes. But it never disappears. It just waits, waiting for you to listen. The real cost of indecision is not what you lose externally. It is what you lose internally. First, momentum, connection to self. And the beautiful part is this. You can stop paying that cost today with one choice. Not a big one, a real one. A choice that says, I choose movement over perfection. I choose learning over waiting. I choose myself. This is not pressure. This is freedom. Because choosing returns power to you. Reminds your mind, I am capable. Reminds your body, I am safe to move. And slowly, confidence returns. Not as a feeling, as evidence. You acted. You responded. You survived. That is how trust is rebuilt. Decision by decision. Moment by moment. You do not need to fix your life. You need to start living it again. And living requires choosing. Even when it feels uncomfortable. Even when fear is present. Fear does not mean stop. It means care. Care can be guided. This chapter is not here to scare you. It is here to wake you gently. To remind you that your life is happening now. Not after certainty arrives. Not after fear leaves. And you are allowed to step forward. Chapter 6. Fear disguised as logic. Fear is clever. It does not always appear as panic. It does not always feel emotional. Sometimes, fear sounds intelligent. It speaks calmly. It uses reasons. It presents arguments. And that is why it fools you. Fear rarely says, I am afraid. Instead it says, let's be realistic. Let's think this through. Now is not the right time. It wears the mask of logic. And once it does, you trust it. Because you trust your intelligence. You believe you are being rational. But often, you are just being protected by fear. Fear pretending to be intelligence is one of the hardest patterns to recognize. Because it feels responsible. It feels mature. It feels wise. But it keeps you stuck. Ask yourself this. How many times have you delayed a decision because it sounded logical to wait? How many times did you say, I'll decide after I have more clarity, and that clarity never came? Fear does not want clarity. Fear wants certainty, and certainty is impossible. So fear keeps moving the finish line. Every time you reach it, it shifts again. Fear is not trying to harm you. It is trying to protect you. But protection without awareness becomes limitation. Fear's favorite trick is exaggeration. Takes a small risk and turns it into a catastrophe. If this goes wrong, everything will fall apart. It ignores resilience. It ignores learning. It ignores your ability to adapt. Fear assumes you are fragile, but you are not. Logic asks balanced questions. Fear asks leading ones. Logic says, what are the risks and the benefits? Fear says, what if this ruins everything? Logic considers possibilities. Fear obsesses over worst cases. Logic leaves room for adjustment. Fear demands perfection. This is how you tell the difference. Fear is rigid. Logic is flexible. Fear feels urgent. Logic feels calm. Fear pressures. Logic invites. But when fear wears logic's voice, the pressure feels reasonable. You tell yourself, I'm just being smart. But deep down, your body feels tense. Your breath is shallow. Your chest feels tight. That is not logic. That is fear. Fear lives in the body. Logic lives in the mind. And the body always tells the truth. Here is something important. Fear often disguises itself as long-term planning. I just want to be prepared. But preparation never ends. When fear is in charge, there is always something else to consider. One more scenario. One more opinion. One more backup plan. Preparation becomes avoidance. And avoidance feels productive. That is why it is dangerous. Fear also pretends to be responsibility. I can't decide yet. People depend on me. But responsibility does not mean paralysis. True responsibility includes action. Fear uses responsibility to justify stillness. It tells you, if you move and fail, you will hurt others. So you stay still. But staying still hurts too. It just hurts quietly. Let me ask you something. Have you ever made a decision that scared you and later realized it was not as bad as your mind predicted? Most people have. Fear is a poor predictor. It is designed to assume danger. That does not make it wise. It makes it cautious. Caution has value, but unchecked caution becomes control. Fear also pretends to be experience. Remember what happened last time? And it replays old pain. It assumes the future will repeat the past. But context changes. You change. Fear does not update its data. It keeps using old memories to block new possibilities. Logic learns from experience. Fear is trapped in it. Now let's talk about exposure. How do you expose fear? When it sounds intelligent, you test it. Not with arguments. With simple questions. Here's the first mental test. Ask yourself, if this decision felt calm, would I still think the same way? Fear cannot survive calm. It needs tension. If your reasoning only makes sense when you are anxious, it is not pure logic. Here is the second test. Am I looking for information, or am I looking for reassurance? Information leads to clarity. Reassurance feeds fear. Fear never feels reassured for long. It always asks for more. Here is the third test. What am I trying to avoid feeling? Fear is always avoiding something. Embarrassment, disappointment, plus uncertainty. Logic does not avoid feelings. It accounts for them. If your reasoning exists only to avoid discomfort, fear is in charge. Here is another test. If I knew I could handle the outcome, would this decision still feel impossible? Fear assumes you cannot cope. Logic knows you can adapt. Fear underestimates you. Logic respects your resilience. Notice this. Fear often speaks in absolutes. Always. Never. Everything. Nothing. Logic speaks in probabilities. Often. Sometimes. Possibly. Listen to your language. Your words reveal your state. Fear also creates false deadlines. Decide now or regret it forever. Or the opposite. Wait until the perfect time. Both are traps. Logic understands timing is flexible. Fear wants control. And control is fear's way of feeling safe. But safety does not come from control. It comes from trust. Trust in your ability to respond. Fear does not trust. It predicts disaster. It assumes helplessness. But look at your life. How many things have you survived already? How many times did you think you could not handle something, and you did? Fear ignores evidence. Logic uses it. Fear pretends to be careful. But careful does not mean frozen. Careful means conscious. Fear wants certainty before movement. Logic accepts movement, creates clarity. Now ask yourself this. When you think about your current decision, do you feel expansion or contraction? Expansion is openness, curiosity, possibility. Contraction is tightness, pressure, urgency. Contraction signals fear. Expansion signals alignment. This is not mystical. This is physiological. Your nervous system responds before your mind explains. Fear disguises itself by keeping you busy. Busy thinking, busy planning, busy researching. So you never act. Fear does not want resolution. It wants delay. Because delay feels safe. But safety without growth becomes suffocation. Here is a powerful question. What would I choose if I trusted myself more? Fear hates that question because it removes fear's authority. Fear needs you to doubt yourself. Logic does not. Logic collaborates with trust. Fear isolates you in your head. Logic integrates mind and body. Fear says, think more. Logic says, check in. Fear says, figure it out. Logic says, feel into it. And when you begin to expose fear gently, its grip loosens, not by force, by awareness. You do not argue with fear. You acknowledge it. I see you. Thank you for trying to protect me. But you are not deciding today. Fear calms down when it is heard, not when it is obeyed. This is an important shift. You stop letting fear run the meeting. You let it sit in the room, but not at the head of the table. Logic needs space, and space comes from calm. So before deciding, slow down, not to think more, to breathe, to feel your body, to notice tension. This is how you separate fear from intelligence. Fear speeds you up, clarity slows you down. Fear tightens, clarity opens. Fear demands answers. Clarity allows questions. As you practice these tests, something changes. Your thoughts become quieter. Not because decisions disappear, but because fear stops shouting. And when fear quiets, your natural intelligence returns. Not the loud intelligence of analysis, but the quiet intelligence of alignment. This is the intelligence that guides, not controls. And you already have it. You just need to stop confusing fear. For wisdom. Chapter 7. Trust versus anxiety. This part is the heart of everything. This is the core philosophy. Not strategy. Not tactics. Not productivity tricks. This is about how you move through life. Two forces guide most decisions. Trust and anxiety. They feel similar at first. Both speak inside you. Both influence choices. Both pretend to help. But they move in opposite directions. Trust moves you forward. Anxiety holds you hostage. Trust is quiet. Anxiety is loud. Trust does not shout. Anxiety never stops talking. Most people think the loud voice is important. They assume urgency means intelligence. It does not. Urgency often means fear. Trust does not rush you. Trust waits, not because it is unsure, but because it is grounded. Anxiety always rushes. It pushes. It pressures. It demands. Decide now. Fix this immediately. You are running out of time. Anxiety treats life like an emergency room. Everything feels critical. Trust treats life like a long journey. It understands pace. Here is the difference. Trust asks, what is right? Anxiety asks, what is wrong? Trust listens. Anxiety interrupts. Trust gives space. Anxiety fills silence. Trust allows uncertainty. Anxiety hates it. Anxiety believes uncertainty is danger. Trust knows uncertainty is natural. You were not built to know everything. You were built to respond. Trust that. Anxiety doubts it. Anxiety assumes you will fail. Trust assumes you will learn. Anxiety says, if this goes wrong, you are finished. Trust says, if this goes wrong, you adjust. Notice the tone. Trust is calm. Anxiety is dramatic. Trust does not need drama to function. Anxiety survives on intensity. Without intensity, anxiety fades. That is why silence scares it. That is why stillness feels uncomfortable. When anxiety is in charge, anxiety wants movement without direction. Trust wants direction without force. Trust does not mean everything will be easy. It means you stop fighting reality. Anxiety fights reality. It argues with what is. It resists the present. Trust works with what is. It does not deny difficulty. It does not pretend. It accepts. And from acceptance, it moves. Here is something important. Trust does not feel exciting. At first, it feels steady. It feels grounded. It feels almost boring to an anxious mind, because anxiety is addicted to adrenaline. Calm feels unfamiliar when chaos has been normal. So when you first touch trust, your mind may say, this feels wrong. But it is not wrong. It is new. Anxiety has trained your nervous system to believe pressure equals progress. Trust rewires that belief. Trust teaches you that calm is strength, that slowness is not weakness, that patience is power. Anxiety confuses motion with movement. Trust knows the difference. You can be very busy and go nowhere. You can be very calm and go far. Anxiety pushes you to react. Trust invites you to respond. Reaction is automatic. Response is conscious. Reaction is fear-based. Response is trust-based. Anxiety keeps you in your head. Trust brings you into your body. Have you noticed this? When anxiety is high, your body feels tight, jaw clenched, shoulders raised, breath shallow. When trust is present, your body softens, breath deepens, muscles release. This is not imagination. This is biology. Your body recognizes trust before your mind explains it. Anxiety speaks fast. Trust speaks slow. Anxiety repeats itself. Trust says what is needed. Anxiety begs for reassurance. Trust does not. Trust is not loud confidence. It is quiet knowing. Anxiety is loud doubt, disguised as concern. Anxiety often says, "I just want to be sure." But certainty never arrives. So anxiety stays hungry. Trust does not wait for certainty. It moves with probability. It understands life, is lived in estimates. Trust does not promise safety. It promises presence. And presence is stronger than safety, because presence means you are here, not lost in future fears, not trapped in past regrets. Anxiety never stays here. It lives 5 steps ahead, or 10 steps behind. Trust lives now. That is its power. When you act from trust, your actions feel aligned. Even hard decisions feel clean. Not easy, but clean. Anxiety-driven decisions feel messy. Even when they work, they leave residue. Second-guessing, mental noise. Trust leaves clarity. Anxiety leaves exhaustion. Here is a key truth. Trust does not eliminate anxiety. It places it in the background. Anxiety may still speak, but it does not decide. Trust becomes the leader. Anxiety becomes information, not authority. You stop asking anxiety for permission. You acknowledge it. Then you move anyway. Trust is not reckless. It is respectful. It respects your limits. It respects timing. It respects energy. Anxiety ignores limits. It demands more effort, more thinking, more worrying. Trust understands rest. Anxiety feels guilty resting. Trust knows rest is part of progress. Anxiety believes you must earn peace. Trust knows peace is a foundation, not a reward. This changes everything. When trust leads, you stop forcing outcomes. You stop gripping life. You start cooperating. You still plan. You still think. But you do not obsess. You do not spiral. You do not punish yourself for not knowing everything. Trust removes self-violence. Anxiety thrives on self-criticism. Anxiety says, "You should be better by now." Trust says, "You are learning." Anxiety compares. Trust observes. Anxiety rushes growth. Trust allows it. Growth forced breaks things. Growth allowed strengthens them. Trust feels like standing on solid ground. Anxiety feels like running on unstable ground. Always adjusting. Always correcting. Never resting. Trust allows mistakes. Anxiety magnifies them. Trust sees mistakes as information. Anxiety sees them as identity. Trust says, "That was an error." Anxiety says, "That is who you are." One is helpful. The other is cruel. Anxiety pressures you to prove yourself. Trust allows you to be yourself. Pressure creates performance. Trust creates presence. Performance is exhausting. Presence is sustainable. Anxiety wants guarantees. Trust accepts risk. Not blindly, but bravely. Anxiety avoids risk at all costs, then wonders why life feels small. Trust understands something. Anxiety never will. You cannot think your way into safety. You can only build resilience. And resilience grows through experience, not avoidance. Trust knows you are capable. Anxiety doubts it. Trust is not blind optimism. It is grounded faith in your adaptability. You may not control outcomes, but you can control engagement. Trust engages. Anxiety resists. Anxiety waits until it feels safe. Trust moves when it feels right. Safety is external. Alignment is internal. Trust follows alignment. Anxiety follows comfort. Comfort does not lead to fulfillment. Alignment does. Trust aligns you with your values. Anxiety aligns you with your fears. One expands life. The other shrinks it. Here is a powerful check-in. Ask yourself, does this decision feel pressured or peaceful? Not easy. Peaceful. Peaceful does not mean no fear. It means no inner war. Anxiety creates inner conflict. Trust creates inner coherence. When trust leads, your thoughts, emotions, and actions move together. When anxiety leads, they fight each other. You think one thing, you feel another, you do something else. That fragmentation drains you. Trust integrates. Anxiety fractures. Trust is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It whispers. And that is why people miss it. They are listening for something louder. But wisdom is rarely loud. Wisdom is steady. Wisdom waits for you to slow down. Anxiety hates slowing down. Because when you slow down, you can feel. And anxiety survives by keeping you busy. Trust invites stillness. Even for a moment. Even for one breath. That breath is enough to change leadership from anxiety to trust. You do not need to eliminate anxiety. You need to stop obeying it. You need to practice choosing trust. Again and again and again. Trust grows with use. Anxiety weakens when questioned. Every time you pause, instead of panic. Every time you breathe, instead of rush. Every time you choose alignment over pressure, trust strengthens. This is not a personality trait. It is a practice. And like all practices, it begins imperfectly. You will slip. You will rush. You will overthink. That does not mean failure. It means awareness is growing. Trust is patient. It does not judge your pace. Anxiety does. Trust stays. Anxiety exhausts itself. Over time, you will notice something shift. Decisions feel clearer. Not because life is simpler, but because you are calmer. Calm is not passive. Calm is powerful. Calm sees more. Calm chooses better. Calm listens deeper. Trust is calm. Anxiety is noise. And you get to choose what leads. Chapter 8. The Trust Decision Framework. A deep dive. Now we slow down even more. This part is not about speed. It is about grounding. It is about learning how to decide without fighting yourself. Most people think decisions are mental. They are not. They are emotional first. The mind comes later. That is why logic fails when pressure rises. That is why smart people freeze. They try to think their way out of an emotional storm. This framework is different. It does not fight emotion. It works with it. We will call it TRUST. Not as a word, but as a process. A way of returning to yourself. A way of calming the noise. Before choosing, each letter is a step, not a rule, not a command. The step. You move through them gently, at your pace. No rushing. Tune in. This is where everything begins. Before deciding anything, you pause. Not for hours, not for days, just long enough to notice yourself. Most people skip this. They jump straight into thinking. Pros. 'Cause what if? What then? But they never ask, what is happening inside me right now? So ask it, quietly. What am I feeling? Not what should I feel? Not what makes sense. What am I feeling? Fear, tightness, pressure, excitement, relief. Name it. You do not need to fix it. You do not need to explain it. Just notice. This step alone creates space. Anxiety hates space. It thrives in speed. When you tune in, you slow the system. You bring awareness to the body. Where do you feel the decision? In your chest? In your stomach? In your throat? These signals matter. They are not commands. They are information. Tuning in means you stop running from discomfort. You turn toward it. Gently. You say, I see you. And often, that is enough. To soften the fear. Release urgency. This is one of the hardest steps. Urgency feels important. Urgency feels responsible. Urgency says, if you don't decide now, everything will fall apart. But urgency is rarely real. It is usually anxiety, wearing a mask. So you question it. Ask yourself, do I truly need to decide right now? Not someday. Right now. Most of the time, the answer is no. Even if the decision is serious, even if it matters, you often have more time than anxiety claims. Releasing urgency does not mean delaying forever. It means removing pressure, so clarity can breathe. When urgency drops, your nervous system relaxes. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts slow. You regain access to wisdom. Urgency blocks wisdom. Calm invites it. Say this silently if needed. I am allowed to slow down. I do not need to panic to be responsible. This step is powerful because once urgency leaves, many decisions become obvious. You understand the fear. Fear is not the enemy. Avoiding fear is. So instead of arguing with fear, you listen to it. Ask it questions. What are you trying to protect me from? What are you afraid will happen? Let the answers come. They may be dramatic. They may be unrealistic. That is okay. Fear exaggerates. But beneath exaggeration is usually a real need. Safety, belonging, stability. Or when you understand fear, it relaxes. It no longer needs to scream. This step transforms fear from a driver into a passenger. You acknowledge it. You thank it. Then you decide anyway, not against fear, with awareness of it. This builds trust because you are no longer ignoring yourself. Select from values, not fear. Now comes choice, but not from panic, from alignment. Ask yourself, what choice matches who I want to be? Not what avoids discomfort, not what keeps everyone happy. What aligns with my values? Values are steady. Fear is reactive. Values endure. Fear changes daily. When you choose from values, even hard choices feel clean. They may hurt, but they do not haunt. Fear-based choices feel safe at first. Then they rot inside you. You feel it later. Regret, resentment, self-doubt. Values-based choices build self-respect. Even when outcomes are uncertain, ask yourself, Would future me respect this choice? That question cuts through noise. T. Trust and take the step. This is where action happens. Not massive action. One step. Full. Manageable. You do not need the full plan. You need the next move. Trust is not certainty. It is willingness. Willingness to learn. Willingness to adjust. Willingness to face consequences. Without self-abandonment. You act. Then you observe. Not judge. Observe. What happened? What did you learn? Trust grows through feedback. Not perfection. Each step builds confidence. Because you prove something important. You can handle life. Even when unsure. Inner dialogue. What this sounds like inside. Let us slow this down further. Imagine a decision. Your mind starts racing. Here is how anxiety speaks. What if this ruins everything? You cannot afford to be wrong. Think harder. Think faster. Now watch how trust responds. Pause. Breathe. We do not need to know everything. One step is enough. This is the shift. Not loud. Not dramatic. But real. You stop forcing answers. You allow clarity to surface. A short story, relatable, not specific. Someone stands at a crossroads. A job change. A relationship shift. A life decision. They feel frozen. They open lists. They ask everyone. They replay scenarios. Nothing works. Then one day, they stop trying to decide. They sit quietly. They notice the tightness. They release urgency. They admit the fear. They remember their values. And suddenly, the next step feels clear. Not easy, but clear. That is trust. Why this framework works? Because it respects your humanity. It does not demand emotional perfection. It does not shame fear. It integrates mind and body. It slows the system. Before using logic, logic works best. In calm environments, this framework creates calm. Questions for you, engagement. As you listen, ask yourself, which step do I skip most often? Do I rush before tuning in? Do I obey urgency without question? Do I confuse fear with logic? Do I choose comfort over values? Do I avoid action until certainty appears? There is no wrong answer. Only awareness. Awareness is progress. A final reassurance. You are not bad at decisions. You were just taught to ignore yourself. This framework teaches you to return again and again and again. Trust is not a destination. It is a relationship, one you rebuild with every conscious choice. Slowly, patiently, honestly. Chapter 9. The Sage Method for Fast Decisions. Not every decision needs deep thinking. Not every choice deserves hours of analysis. Yet overthinkers treat small decisions like life or death situations. What to say, what to reply, when to act, when to wait. These daily decisions quietly exhaust you. They steal energy. They create mental clutter. They make life feel heavier than it needs to be. This part is about relief, not perfection. Relief. You need a method for fast decisions. A method that feels safe. A method that does not trigger panic. A method that keeps you moving without spiraling. This is where SAG comes in. Simple, grounded, effective. Not for big life choices. For daily life. Messages. Plans. Small risks. Quick choices. The decisions you face every single day. Why fast decisions feel hard for overthinkers. Overthinkers believe every decision reflects who they are. A wrong reply means rejection. A delayed choice means failure. A small mistake feels permanent. So the mind freezes. It wants guarantees. But daily life does not offer guarantees. It offers moments. Sage helps you respond to moments. Without self-betrayal. Without panic. Without over-analysis. Stop the spiral. This is the first step. And the most important. Before deciding, you interrupt the mental loop. Not by thinking more, but by stopping. Literally. You pause. 1 breath. 1 second. That pause matters. Spirals feed on momentum. When you stop, the spiral weakens. Say this silently. I do not need to solve everything. That sentence alone reduces pressure. Stopping does not mean avoidance. It means regaining control. You choose not to be dragged by your thoughts. You become the observer, not the prisoner. This step creates space, and space creates choice. Ask one clear question. Overthinkers ask too many questions. What if this goes wrong? What will they think? What about later? What about that other option? Too many questions create confusion. Sage asks one. Only one. The right question. Here it is. What is the simplest reasonable action right now? Not the perfect one. Not the safest one. The simplest reasonable one. This question cuts through noise. It brings you back to reality. Not fantasy outcomes. Not imagined disasters. Reality. Simple. Reasonable. That is your anchor. Go with enough, not perfect. This step changes everything. Overthinkers wait for confidence. But confidence comes after action, not before. So you stop waiting to feel ready. You act when it feels enough. Enough clarity. Enough calm. Enough information. Not all. Enough. Perfection is a trap. Enough is freedom. Say this. This is good enough to move. Movement breaks anxiety. Stillness feeds it. Even small movement restores momentum. This step builds trust. Because every time you act and survive, your mind learns something new. You are capable. Exit and let go. This is the step most people miss. After deciding, you leave the decision alone. No replaying. No rechecking. No mental punishment. You exit. Mentally. You tell yourself, I have decided. Then you move on. Let go does not mean you do not care. It means you refuse to torture yourself. Replaying decisions does not improve them. It only drains you. Let the decision live. Let it unfold. You can adjust later, if needed, but you do not haunt yourself. This is relief. Why Sage works so well? Because it respects your energy. It does not ask you to overpower anxiety. It helps you bypass it. It keeps decisions small, contained, manageable. Anxiety grows when decisions feel heavy. Sage keeps them light. Examples: daily life decisions. Let us make this real. You need to reply to a message. Your mind says, what if I say the wrong thing? Sage says, stop. Ask one question. What is the simplest reasonable reply? Go with enough. Exit. Done. Another example. You need to choose whether to attend an event. Your mind spirals. Sage, stop. What is reasonable right now? Will I regret not going? Go with enough clarity. Decide. Let it go. Another example. You need to start a task. You overthink timing. Stop. What is the smallest step? Do 5 minutes. Exit analysis. Action dissolves doubt. Questions for you, engagement. As you listen, ask yourself, where do I waste energy? On small decisions? Which daily choices drain me the most? What would change if I stopped chasing perfect? Can I allow enough to be enough? These questions are not judgment. They are invitations. The emotional relief of fast decisions. Something powerful happens. When you decide quickly, your mind quiets. Your body relaxes. You feel lighter. Not because life is solved, but because you stopped fighting it. Fast decisions restore self-trust. They teach your system that action is safe, that mistakes are survivable, that life moves forward. When you do, relief is not laziness. Relief is regulation. A regulated mind decides better. A common fear, what if I regret it? This fear stops many people. Here's the truth. Regret does not come from wrong decisions. It comes from self-abandonment. When you choose with care, even if the outcome fails, regret softens. You can say, I acted honestly. That matters. Sage decisions are honest. They are not reckless. They are conscious. That is enough. A short inner dialogue. Anxiety says, wait, think more. Sage says, pause. Move. Anxiety says, you might fail. Sage says, I can adjust. Anxiety says, this is dangerous. Sage says, this is manageable. Over time, this dialogue shifts. Sage becomes louder. Anxiety becomes background noise. Building daily confidence. Confidence is not built through thinking. It is built through repeated action. Sage creates repetition. Every fast decision is a vote for self-trust. Small votes add up. Decisions feel lighter, not because you are careless, but because you are grounded. A final motivational note. You do not need to overhaul your life. To feel better, you need to stop draining yourself with unnecessary struggle. Small decisions deserve calm. You deserve relief. You deserve momentum. Sage is not about rushing life. It is about living it, one simple choice at a time. Chapter 10. Learning to listen to your body. Now we slow down even more. This part is gentle. This part is quiet. This part is about something you have ignored for a long time. Your body. Most overthinkers live in their heads. Thoughts run the show. Logic leads. Analysis decides. But the body stays silent. Not because it has nothing to say, because it was never asked. Your body has always been speaking. Through tension. Through tightness. Through ease. Through relief. But you were taught to listen to thoughts instead. So you learn to doubt the body. This part is about remembering. Not learning something new. Remembering something old. Why the body matters in decisions. Your mind thinks in words. Your body speaks in sensations. The mind predicts. The body reacts to what is real. The mind imagines futures. The body responds to safety or threat. In the present moment, this is important because many decision problems are not thinking problems. They are nervous system problems. When the body feels unsafe, the mind panics. When the body feels calm, the mind clears. So before you trust your thoughts, you must check your body. What people call intuition. Intuition is not magic. It is not a special gift. It is not mystical. Intuition is pattern recognition stored in the body. Your body remembers experiences, outcomes, emotional results. Even when your mind forgets, your body learns faster than logic. It notices tone, energy, timing. Intuition is simply your body saying, I have felt this before. I know how this ends. But intuition is quiet. It does not argue. It does not explain. It signals. And that is why overthinkers miss it. They are listening for words. The body does not use words. It uses feeling. The problem: confusing panic with intuition. Many people say, my intuition says this is wrong. But often, that is panic, not intuition. So we must learn the difference. This is the key skill. Calm signals versus panic signals. They feel very different. When you learn to notice, panic signals how they feel. Panic feels rushed. It feels urgent. It feels tight. The body contracts. Breath becomes shallow. The chest feels heavy. The stomach twists. Thoughts speed up. The signal says, act now. Escape. Fix this immediately. Panic does not feel grounded. It feels shaky, unstable, loud inside. Panic pushes. It pressures. It threatens. It feels like something bad will happen if you do not act. Panic is driven by fear. Fear of loss. Fear of rejection. Fear of regret. Panic wants certainty. Calm signals how they feel. Calm feels slow. Even when the decision is hard. The body feels open. Breath is deeper. The chest softens. The stomach is steady. There is space. Not excitement. Not relief. Just steadiness. Calm does not shout. It does not rush. It says, this is okay. This is aligned. You can handle this. Calm allows uncertainty. It does not demand answers. Calm feels grounded, like standing firmly. Instead of leaning forward, calm is trust. In physical form, a simple check-in practice. Before deciding, pause. Place attention in your body. Ask one question. How does this option feel? In my body right now? Not later. Not logically. Right now. Then notice. Do not judge. Do not analyze. Just observe. Tight or open. Heavy or light. Rushed or steady. There is no correct answer. Only information. Why overthinkers ignore the body? Overthinkers learned early that thinking equals safety. Maybe thinking helped you survive. Maybe it helped you avoid mistakes. Maybe it helped you gain approval. So you trusted it. And it worked. Until it didn't. Now thinking creates paralysis. Because thinking without body awareness has no anchor. It floats. The body anchors. The body grounds. Listening to the body does not mean abandoning logic. It means balancing it. Mind and body. Together. A soothing inner dialogue. Let us slow this moment. Imagine a decision. Your mind starts listing risks. First, bring attention to your breath. Say silently, I am safe right now. Then ask, what does my body say? Maybe it says nothing. That is okay. Silence is also information. Do not force. The body speaks softly. The body never lies, but it can be misread. The body always responds honestly, but interpretation matters. Tightness does not always mean no. Sometimes tightness means this matters. Sometimes discomfort means growth. So we do not obey sensations blindly. We listen carefully. Does this fear? Or is this resistance to growth? Panic collapses. Growth discomfort stretches. Panic feels like shrinking. Growth discomfort feels like expansion. With tension, this difference becomes clearer. With practice, learning through small decisions, You do not start with big life choices. You start small. What to say, when to stop, when to rest, when to act. You notice. You reflect. Over time, your body becomes clearer, like tuning an instrument. Questions for you, engagement. As you listen, ask yourself, when was the last time my body tried to warn me? When was the last time my body felt calm, but my mind overruled it? Do I rush past sensations to get answers faster? Can I allow myself to slow down enough to feel? These questions are gentle, not judgment. Curiosity. Why this practice heals overthinking. Overthinking disconnects you from the present moment. The body lives only in the present. So when you return to the body, you return to now. Now is where clarity exists. Not in imagined futures, not in replayed pasts, but listening to the body grounds decisions. It reduces regret, because even if outcomes fail, you know you listened. You honored yourself. That builds self-trust. Common fear. What if my body is wrong? This fear is normal. Here's the truth. Your body does not promise success. It offers alignment. Alignment does not guarantee comfort. It guarantees integrity. You can live with misalignment success, but it empties you. You can live with aligned failure and still feel whole. That is the difference. A gentle reminder. You do not need to be perfect at listening. You just need to begin. One breath, one pause, one moment of noticing. That is enough. The body forgives quickly. It welcomes attention. It relaxes when seen. Ending this part softly. You are not broken. You are not disconnected. You are just unpracticed at listening. Your body has always been here, waiting, patient, quiet, ready to guide you when you slow down enough to hear it. Chapter 11. Detaching from other people's opinions. This part is about freedom, not loud freedom, quiet freedom, the kind that lives inside you, the kind no one can take. Most overthinkers are not confused because they lack intelligence. They are confused because they listen to too many voices, advice, opinions, warnings, expectations. Everyone has something to say about your life, and slowly, their voices become louder than your own. This part is about taking your voice back. Why advice feels so comforting at first. Advice feels safe. It feels supportive. It feels like help. When you ask someone else, you share responsibility. If things go wrong, you are not alone. That feels relieving, especially for overthinkers. But comfort has a hidden cost. Every time you hand over a decision, you hand over trust, not to the person, but away from yourself. And over time, that weakens inner authority. The problem with advice. Advice is not neutral. It is filtered through fear, through experience, through bias, through personal wounds. People advise you based on their past, not your future, based on what hurt them, not what will grow you. Even well-meaning advice can mislead, because no one lives inside your body. No one feels your values. No one carries your consequences. They only see from the outside. And outside views are always incomplete. Why too much advice creates confusion? One person says go. Another says wait. Another says avoid. Another says take the risk. Each voice sounds logical. Each opinion feels valid. And now your mind is full. Full of contradiction. Full of noise. Full of pressure. You try to satisfy everyone and end up satisfying no one. including yourself. Confusion is not lack of clarity. It is excess input, the emotional cost of seeking approval. Let us be honest. Most advice seeking is not about information. It is about reassurance. You want someone to say, "Yes, you are doing the right thing." Because doubt hurts. Uncertainty scares. So you look outside for emotional safety. But external reassurance never lasts. It fades. Then you need more and more until you forget how to stand alone. This is how inner authority erodes. Quietly. What is inner authority? Inner authority is simple. It is the ability to say, "I trust myself enough to choose." Not perfectly, not fearlessly, but honestly. Inner authority does not mean you never listen to others. It means you decide who leads. Advice becomes input, not direction. You remain the final voice. Why overthinkers struggle with inner authority? Because overthinkers care deeply. They want to avoid harm. They want to be responsible. They want to do things right. So they outsource decisions to reduce risk. But risk never disappears. It only changes shape. The risk of choosing alone versus the risk of living misaligned. One hurts short-term. The other drains long-term. A quiet realization. At some point, you must accept this truth. No one will live your life for you. No one will feel your regret. No one will carry your fulfillment. That belongs to you. So authority must return to you. Not aggressively. Gently. How to detach from opinions without becoming cold. Detachment does not mean disrespect. It does not mean ignoring people. It means filtering. Here is a simple shift. Before accepting advice, ask, does this person understand my values? Not their success. Not their intelligence. My values. If not, listen politely. Then let it pass. You do not owe obedience to every opinion. The difference between guidance and noise. Guidance feels calm. It invites reflection. It does not pressure. Noise feels urgent. It creates fear. It demands action. Notice how advice makes you feel. Expanded or contracted. Grounded or anxious. Clarity or confusion. Your body knows. Reclaiming inner authority, step by step. This is a practice, not a switch. Step 1. Pause before asking. When you feel the urge to seek advice, ask yourself, what do I think? Not what should I think. What do I think? Even if the answer is unclear, that is okay. Step 2. Decide privately first, even if you later ask others. This strengthens your voice. Step 3. Compare advice to your inner answer, not the other way around. This keeps you centered. A powerful question. Before acting on advice, ask, if this goes wrong, am I okay owning it? If the answer is no, do not follow it, because borrowed decisions create borrowed regret. Confidence does not come from being right. This matters. Confidence does not come from perfect outcomes. It comes from self-loyalty, from knowing you stood by yourself, even when unsure, even when afraid, even when wrong. That builds something deeper than success. It builds integrity. Questions for you, engagement. As you listen, ask yourself, whose opinions shape my choices the most? Do those people live the life I want? Do I ask for advice before checking with myself? What would change if I trusted my inner voice? Just 10% more? Sit with these questions. No rush. The fear of disappointing others. This fear is real. But here is the truth. You will disappoint people. No matter what. If you follow them, you disappoint yourself. If you follow yourself, they may feel uncomfortable. One discomfort is temporary. The other is permanent. Choose wisely. Strong confidence is quiet. You do not need to announce your decisions. You do not need approval. You do not need applause. Quiet confidence does not argue. It moves. A short inner dialogue. Old voice. What will they think? New voice. What do I know to be true? Old voice. What if they disagree? New voice. They are allowed to. Old voice. I need reassurance. New voice. I am enough support. This is strength, not arrogance. A final confidence shift. You were not meant to crowdsource your life. You were meant to live it. Others can walk beside you. They cannot walk for you. Inner authority is not dominance. It is alignment. And alignment feels like peace. Even when the path is hard. Ending this part strongly. You do not need permission to trust yourself. You never did. You just forgot. And now, you are remembering. Chapter 12. Making peace with wrong decisions. There is one fear that hurts overthinkers more than any other. Not failure, not uncertainty, but regret. The fear of looking back and saying, I ruined everything. This fear keeps you frozen, keeps you replaying the past. It keeps you questioning every choice. This part is about healing that fear. Not by denying regret, not by pretending mistakes do not matter, but by understanding them differently. Why regret feels so painful? Regret feels personal. It does not feel like an event. It feels like an identity. I am the one who chose wrong. That sentence hurts deeply, because overthinkers care. They try. They reflect. So when something goes wrong, they do not just feel disappointment. They feel shame. Shame says, you should have known better. You failed yourself. That voice is not truth. It is pain speaking. The myth of the right decision. Regret survives because of one powerful myth. The belief that there was one perfect choice, one correct path, one moment that would have fixed everything. But life does not work that way. You never choose between right and wrong. You choose between unknown paths. You cannot know outcomes in advance. You can only choose with what you knew then. Judging past decisions with present knowledge is unfair. And yet, we do it all the time. You did not fail. You participated. This is important. You did not fail life. You participated in it. Every decision was an attempt to move forward, to protect yourself, to grow, to survive. Even the decisions you regret came from intention, fearful intention, hopeful intention, confused intention, but intention nonetheless. You were never careless. You were human. Why overthinkers cling to regret? Overthinkers believe regret will protect them. If I punish myself enough, I will never make that mistake again. But punishment does not teach. It wounds. Regret becomes a shield, a way to feel in control. If I keep replaying it, I can fix it. But replaying the past does not change it. It only keeps you trapped. The difference between responsibility and self-attack. Responsibility says, I made a choice. I can learn. Self-attack says, I am broken. I cannot be trusted. One leads to growth. The other leads to paralysis. You can take responsibility without cruelty. You can learn without hatred. That is maturity. A gentle reframe. Instead of asking, Why did I do that? What was I trying to protect? Maybe your heart. Maybe your safety. Maybe your future. Seen this way, even painful decisions make sense. They were attempts, not betrayals. The truth about wrong decisions. There are no wrong decisions. There are only decisions with consequences. Some consequences hurt. Some teach. Some redirect. Some close doors. Others open unexpected ones. A decision is not a verdict on your worth. It is a moment in a long story. Why regret feels heavier with time. Regret grows when it is never processed. When you rush forward without healing. When you suppress emotion. The pain waits, then resurfaces later, stronger. Healing requires slowing down, feeling, allowing grief, because sometimes you are not regretting the decision, you are grieving the outcome, and grief deserves compassion. A healing practice. Sit quietly. Think of a decision you regret. Now say this gently. I did the best I could with who I was then. Say it again. Slowly. Let it land. This sentence is not an excuse. It is truth. The role of self-forgiveness. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is releasing self-punishment. You forgive not because the decision was perfect, but because you deserve peace. Holding on to regret does not honor the past. It only harms the present. Questions for you, engagement. As you listen, ask yourself, what decision do I still punish myself for? What did I know at the time? What was I trying to avoid? What was I trying to protect? Can I allow myself the same compassion I give others? Sit with these questions. No pressure. Regret does not mean you are weak. It means you care. Care creates pain when things go wrong. But care is not a flaw. It is strength. The goal is not to stop caring. It is to stop turning care into self-harm. The healing shift. Instead of asking, what if I chose differently? What did this choice teach me? Lessons are value. Even painful ones. Especially painful ones. You are allowed to move on. This may be hard to hear, but you are allowed to release regret. You're allowed to stop suffering. You're allowed to choose peace. Even if the past was messy, suffering is not loyalty. Healing is not betrayal. A soothing inner dialogue. Old voice. I ruined everything. New voice. I learned something costly. Old voice. I can't trust myself. New voice. I survived and grew. Old voice. It should have been different. New voice. It happened, and I am still here. Why making peace changes future decisions? When regret loosens its grip, fear loses power. You stop choosing from avoidance. You start choosing from presence. Peace with the past creates courage for the future, because you no longer fear mistakes. You trust your ability to recover. A final healing truth. You are not defined by one decision, or 10, or 100. You are defined by how you respond now, by your willingness to learn, to soften, to continue. Ending this part gently. Take a breath. Let your shoulders drop. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply human. And humans learn by living. Chapter 13. Building Decision Confidence Daily. Confidence is not a personality trait. It is not something you are born with. It is not something you suddenly gain after one big success. Confidence is built quietly, daily, through small actions that prove one simple truth. You can trust yourself. Overthinkers often believe confidence comes first, then action. But life works the other way. Action comes first, confidence follows. This part is about building that confidence. One small decision at a time. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but consistently. Why confidence feels so far away. If you overthink, you probably wait to feel ready. You wait to feel certain. You wait to feel calm. You wait to feel confident. But waiting keeps you stuck. Because confidence is a result, not a requirement. It grows after movement, not before. So if you wait, confidence never arrives. The truth about self-trust. Self-trust is not blind belief. It is evidence-based. Your mind asks one question: can I handle what happens? If this goes wrong, confidence grows. Every time the answer becomes yes. Not because nothing goes wrong, but because you survive. You adjust. You learn. That is how trust is built. Mini trust experiments, what they are. A mini trust experiment is a small decision you make without overthinking. Low risk, low pressure, high learning. You act, then observe. You do not judge. You do not punish. You simply notice. What happened? Did I survive? Did I learn? These experiments teach your nervous system that action is safe. Examples of mini-trust experiments. Reply to a message without rewriting it 10 times. Choose a plan without asking everyone. Start a task without waiting for perfect timing. Say no without explaining too much. Say without predicting every outcome. Without guilt. These may seem small. They are not. They are powerful. Why small decisions matter most. Big decisions happen rarely. Small decisions happen daily. And daily decisions shape your identity. Every small choice says something. I trust myself. I doubt myself. These messages repeat. Over time, they become beliefs. Mini experiments rewrite beliefs. The daily confidence loop. Here is how it works. You choose. You act. You survive. You reflect. Then you choose again. This loop builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence reduces fear. Reduced fear improves decisions. It is a cycle, and it starts small. The habit of deciding once. Overthinkers decide many times. Before action, after action, during action. They never stop deciding. This drains confidence. A powerful habit is deciding once, then standing by it. Not stubbornly, but respectfully. You say, this is my choice for now. You allow adjustment later, but you stop replaying. This habit alone saves enormous energy. Daily mental habit, limit revisiting. Set a boundary with your mind. Once you decide, you do not revisit unless new information appears. Not emotion, not doubt. Information. This trains your mind to respect decisions. Without this boundary, confidence cannot grow. Daily mental habit, name the win. Overthinkers focus on mistakes. They ignore wins. So confidence never registers. Each day, name one thing. One decision you made. One moment you acted. I chose. That matters. Even if the outcome was neutral. Choosing is progress. Daily mental habit. Separate decision from outcome. This is crucial. A good decision can lead to a bad outcome. A bad decision can lead to a good outcome. Outcome does not define decision quality. Process does. Did you pause? Did you listen? Did you choose honestly? If yes, it was a good decision, even if it hurt. This distinction protects confidence. Why momentum matters more than perfection. Perfection freezes. Momentum flows. Perfection demands certainty. Momentum allows learning. Perfection is rigid. Momentum is adaptive. Life rewards movement, not flawlessness. Momentum keeps you in relationship with reality. Perfection keeps you in fantasy. A powerful shift in language. Instead of saying, I must choose the right thing, I will choose and learn. This single shift removes pressure. It invites growth. What to do when you doubt yourself? Doubt will appear. That is normal. Confidence does not eliminate doubt. It coexists with it. When doubt shows up, do not fight it. Acknowledge it. Then ask, what is the smallest step I can take anyway? Action weakens doubt. Thinking feeds it. Questions for you, engagement. As you listen, ask yourself, which small decisions do I overthink daily? Where can I practice choosing faster? What would happen if I trusted myself just a little more? What is one mini experiment I can try today? Sit with these questions. Let answers come naturally. The role of consistency. Confidence is built through repetition, not intensity, not breakthroughs. Consistency. Choosing again, even after mistakes, especially after mistakes. Each return to action strengthens trust. A short inner dialogue. Old voice. What if I mess up again? New voice. I will adjust again. Old voice. I need to be sure. New voice. I need to begin. Old voice. I am not confident. New voice. I am practicing confidence. Practice matters. Why this part matters so much. Without daily confidence, all frameworks collapse. Knowledge without practice creates frustration. This part turns insight into lived experience. It is how transformation becomes real. A gentle reminder. You do not need to rush. You do not need to fix everything. You do not need to become fearless. You only need to keep choosing. Again and again and again. Ending this part with strength. Confidence is not loud. It does not announce itself. It grows quietly, in moments no one sees. And one day, you realize something has changed. You decide faster. You regret less. You trust more. Not because life became easier, but because you became steadier. Chapter 14. Becoming a calm decision maker. This is the moment you've been preparing for. Every chapter, every exercise, every pause, every breath, it has led here. This is where the overthinker becomes the decision maker. Not rushed, not reactive, not anxious, steady, capable. This chapter is about identity, about transformation, about stepping into a version of yourself that trusts, moves, and feels secure. Even when life is uncertain, the identity shift. Overthinkers often define themselves by hesitation, by doubt, by the endless replay of what if. Your mind tells you, I can't choose. I will fail. I am too cautious. This identity feels familiar, comforting in a strange way, because at least it explains everything. But it also limits you. It traps you in fear. Transformation begins by saying, I am no longer that person. Not with force, not with judgment, with calm observation. You observe the overthinker. You nod to it. You thank it for its service. And you step forward. You are someone different now. Someone capable. someone who moves with awareness, someone who trusts themselves. Your new self, a calm decision maker. The calm decision maker does not panic. They pause. They check in with the body. They notice fear but do not obey it. They notice doubt but do not overanalyze it. They allow intuition and reason to guide equally. They know that not all outcomes are controllable, but the process is controllable, and that is enough. They act, even when unsure, even when uncomfortable, even when the result is unknown, because they trust themselves. And trust is the ultimate freedom. From fear to capability. Think back to the first chapter. Remember the silent prison of overthinking? The endless chatter, the paralysis, the fear of making the wrong choice. You were trapped. Now look at yourself again. You have tools. You have methods. You have a framework. You have practice. You have survived your own uncertainty. And now you are stronger. Stronger not because life became easier. Stronger because you became steadier. Fear is still present, but it no longer dominates. The daily practice of calm decision-making. Transformation is not a single act. It is daily. Mini experiments. Sage method. Body listening. Letting go of regret. Trusting yourself. Every day you practice. Pausing before action. Asking, what feels aligned? Acting with enough clarity. Letting go after the choice. Reflecting without judgment. These practices are invisible. No one sees them, but they shape identity. And identity determines action. And action shapes life. Your inner dialogue now. Listen to your mind. Old voice. I can't decide. New voice. I can. And I will. Old voice. What if I fail? New voice. Even if I fail, I can recover. Old voice. I need certainty. New voice. I can move with enough clarity. This dialogue is soft, not harsh, not judgmental, but firm. A steady inner voice replaces frantic chatter. It is yours. It is trustworthy. It is calming. The power of self-trust. Self-trust is the key. It is not confidence in outcomes. It is confidence in yourself, in your ability to respond, to adjust, to recover, to keep going. When self-trust grows, fear shrinks, regret softens, doubt becomes a guide, not a jailer. You realize, even wrong choices are survivable. Even uncertainty is navigable. Even mistakes are lessons. Because you can handle them. Question for you, engagement. As you listen, ask yourself, what does my calm self look like? How does it breathe? How does it act? How does it respond when things go wrong? Can I imagine carrying this calm into every choice I make? Sit with this vision. Allow it to feel real. Because imagining is the first step toward becoming. Let go of the old identity. The overthinker who froze, doubted, and replayed choices, thank them. They protected you. They tried their best. But now their time is over. Let them rest. You do not need to carry their weight. Step forward. Step into calmness. Step into clarity. Step into trust. Moving through uncertainty. Life will always have unknowns. Decisions will always carry risk. That will not change. But your relationship with risk does. You no longer flee. You no longer procrastinate. You no longer punish yourself for outcomes. You meet uncertainty with presence, with steadiness, with curiosity. This is mastery, not perfection. Mastery of self, not life. Empowerment through small decisions. Remember, identity is built in moments. Small decisions. Everyday choices. The act of moving forward, again and again. Momentum over perfection. Action over hesitation. This is how calm decision-makers are created. Not in a single dramatic act, but in 1,000 small, consistent moments. A soothing inner practice. Each morning, take a deep breath. Check in with your body. Ask, what needs attention today? Notice fear, doubt, and excitement. Act with enough clarity. Pause after action. Reflect kindly. Repeat. Over weeks and months, you will feel a shift. Calmness will grow. Trust will expand. Decision-making will feel natural, almost effortless. The final transformation. The transformation is complete. When you notice this, you are no longer trapped. You are no longer paralyzed. You are no longer dependent on endless reassurance. You have become calm. You have become capable. You have become a decision maker who trusts themselves in life's uncertainty. And the world will notice, not because you announce it, not because you act loudly, because calm confidence is magnetic, because your energy shifts, because people feel your steadiness. You do not need to prove it. It is inherent. A gentle final reminder. You are safe. You are capable. You are powerful. Even when life is unpredictable. Even when outcomes are unknown. Even when choices feel difficult. You have built skills. You have built trust. You have built resilience. This calm is your new identity. Carry it with you everywhere. Closing thoughts. Take a moment. Breathe. Feel your body steady. Feel your mind clear. Feel yourself capable. The overthinker still exists inside you, but it no longer leads. You lead. You decide. You move. And you thrive. This is the gift of mastery. Not perfection. Not certainty. But calm, capable, confident action. And it is yours. You have earned it. This closes the journey. From silence to clarity. From fear to trust. From doubt to calm confidence. You are no longer just thinking about life. You are living it. You are acting in it. You are navigating it. With wisdom, courage, and presence. This is your transformation. This is your identity. This is your power.